when I feel lonely or just sad and I don't feel like talking to someone, I turn on music, read a book, or watch my favorite show. It's not just entertainment, but a source of comfort a lot of the times. Growing up online, shows and movies and music wasn't just a way to distract yourself. Through them, I found companions and the strength to get through my days, even when I felt like I didn't have the energy for anything. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was a pretty lonely kid and teenager. I felt like an outsider or a third wheel most of the time. My Friday nights didn't involve any plans most of the time. So I found company through other forms. I read and I watched and I listened. YouTube, especially, was a big comfort for me. It was unlike any other form of media for me. I loved watching vlogs, getting to spend the days with influencers I liked. It felt a lot more personal than regular TV shows or films. When I had no one to spend my days with, it was a huge way for me to feel companionship. When I think about certain times of my life, I connect them to the book I was reading or the show I was watching at the time. There was a holiday a couple of years ago which stayed in my mind so vividly because I was reading The Midnight Library and I enjoyed it so much. There were other times which were more difficult, which I got through with the help of some of my favorite characters. Watching Ross, Monica, Rachel, Chandler, Phoebe, and Joey drinking coffee at Central Perk made me feel like I was there with them. Sometimes it isn't even about the story itself, it's the way the characters hold up a mirror. They show us that we aren't the only ones feeling this way. Whether it's simple emotions or the ones which are a little bit too complex to talk about, through their characters, we can find comfort in our own lives. That's why I think it's important fictional characters stay complex. I know that a lot of times everyone likes to point the finger, calling everyone toxic and criticizing every little small thing. We forget that not everything and everyone is black and white. There's nuance to everything, and complicated stories and characters can show us how that's not always a bad thing, so that we can feel better with our own experiences. One of my favorite TV shows is Gilmore Girls. I first watched it years ago and I absolutely loved the dynamic between Rory and Lorelai. It felt so perfect. Mother and daughter being best friends, talking about everything. Lorelai is portrayed as the young, cool mom. You can immediately see this with the opening scene in season 1, episode 1. We get introduced to her when she steps into Luke's diner and is immediately being hit on by a 20 something. Rory is seen as cute, funny, intelligent, and extremely ambitious. I adored them both throughout all my teen years, and I found so much comfort through them, wishing I could be right there in Stars Hollow. Every fall and winter, I get the urge to turn it on again, to get that cozy feeling of the small town. In the last couple of years, my image of the characters shifted a lot. Now that I'm an adult and I have more life experience, I stopped seeing Lorelai as the hip mom. I can now see that she's emotionally avoidant impulsive, and she has a hard time being vulnerable. Rory is extremely privileged and crumbles when the world stops validating her. Each year I grow older and return to the show, I can see how much I've transformed and grown. I can now see the flaws and complexity behind these people. But don't get me wrong, I don't hate the show now or even hate the characters. I still like it, but now I can see that these characters are real and contradicting. They aren't picture perfect, but make big mistakes and sometimes don't see their own privilege. But I think that's the same in real life. No one is perfect, we mess up, we are flawed, and sometimes we do things that are bad. I think that no one is inherently good or evil. Well, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna take that back. I think there are some truly evil people out there, but let's not go there right now. Being flawed doesn't mean that you are unlovable or not deserving of experiences and human connection. That's why I think these characters are so important. You can watch them doing the wrong things, watch how it makes you feel, and sit with those emotions. That's how you can also watch your own perspectives and growth over time. It also says a lot about us, why we criticize these characters but come back to them time after time. A lot of the times, these shows aren't just stories to watch but homes to return to. I've never been to the Upper East Side, but when I see Blair Waldorf going shopping there or Carrie and her friends enjoying cocktails, I feel like I've lived a million different lives there. I know the episodes and the plots, but I could still watch my favorite shows again and again. It's not about immediately pressing play when you are being asked if you want to watch the next episode, but the comfort of already knowing what's going to happen. It's the predictability that's comforting. The characters stay the same, the story stays the same, and the world stays the same. That familiar feeling can be a really good thing for your mind. You can rest without being overwhelmed. For me, it's also the same thing with music. If I can choose between listening to new releases or my old playlists, most of the time I do go back to my old favorites. Sometimes I get bored of them and wish to have a broader library of songs I like, but I love the familiar sounds of the songs that have carried me through so many days. Same thing with movies, and especially Christmas movies. Every year I rewatch the 5 to 10 Christmas movies I know and love. The new ones, which are being released every year, rarely make it into my favorites list. I have a really hard time finding ones that give me the feeling of comfort and safety. Christmas is always an emotionally draining time for me. I struggle with lots of negative feelings during that time. So, having binge watch sessions of the movies I already watched as a kid honestly feel like a warm blanket which cover my hard emotions for a while and make everything feel softer and lighter. I think to gain insight, you need perspective, but you don't always have the means to do that. Sometimes we are so stuck in our routines, and they don't always give room and time to experience something new. Maybe you are too afraid to go out into the world. Through pop culture, you can gain different perspectives, cultures, and experiences. When you stay curious and explore different topics, you can gain a lot, even by never leaving your room. This can help with personal growth and a greater understanding. When you are drowning in your own emotions and experiences, Turning on the TV to see a couple of very brave and very cool kids fighting demogorgons in Hawkins can help you tune out your own pain. We can watch them make mistakes, spiral, recover, relapse, and try over again. They have completely different experiences to our own, but most of the time, there's an important lesson to learn. Suffering's a part of a larger narrative and not the entire story. Growth and healing isn't a straight line. You can walk with Max through Wagner's mind, and maybe the next time you listen to Running Up That Hill, you find the strength to fight your way out of your own mind. Access to content is endless. Social media, TV shows, music, films, books, all compressed into your tiny screen, always available. While there are a lot of benefits, the constant stream of media can become very dangerous, and I think we are all very aware of that. When you are constantly trying to escape, it's easy to slip out of your own life. You start to live through the other people and forget to be a conscious part of your own life. When you start to become avoidant of your own experiences, you start to miss out on creating your own stories. A lot of the times, fiction dramatizes or romanticizes struggles. To vulnerable viewers, this can idolize harmful behaviors. When you are so connected to a world that isn't your own, it can become really difficult to make connections. This can worsen loneliness and social anxiety. When you feel like you are struggling, it seems to be easier to just turn on your favorite song or show instead of going to talk to someone. It's also easy to constantly tune out your uncomfortable feelings or thoughts away. By always being surrounded by noise, you stop listening to your own thoughts and feelings. In the end, pop culture isn't good or bad on its own. It's a tool, and like most tools, it depends on how we use it. Stories, characters, and songs can hold us when we don't feel strong enough to hold ourselves. They can give language to emotions we can't name yet and remind us that we aren't as alone as we feel. But they aren't meant to replace living, only to walk beside us while we do. The shows we return to, the plays we replay, the movies we know by heart are proof that we've survived something before. And maybe that's their real purpose. Not to help us escape our lives, but to give us enough comfort, perspective, and courage to step back into them. A little softer, a little braver, and a little more understood.